What is a surprisingly easy way to accidentally die?
Engulfment. Standing on top of a large pile of anything seems so innocent, until a tiny bit shifts and suddenly you're drowning in grain, sand, rocks.
I sneezed the other day and had the worst headache of my life all of a sudden. Just got out of the hospital after a week with a subarachnoid brain hemorrhage. Didn't die but easily could have if I took a Tylenol and went to bed. Update. Discharged today with still no clear cause after 2 CTs, an MRI, and 2 cerebral angiograms. We'll follow up with another MRI in 3 months once blood clears out.
FDR's last words were, "I have a terrible headache."
Getting really drunk, and then choking to death on your vomit. Always stay with someone if they are passed out.
Taking the springs off car struts.
I had a buddy with a set of manual strut compressors help me change my struts out a while back. I had to help him hold the springs while we were compressing them, and I was so uncomfortable the whole time, knowing one wrong slip or release and we are both F'd. Anything with big springs are very dangerous, including garage door springs.
Falling down the stairs. These people climbed big mountains in nasty conditions and got taken out walking down the stairs. And #X200B. Link. And #X200B. Link.
An acquaintance of mine lost his sister that way. She tripped on some shoes and fell down the stairs. Extremely sad. Simple complacency on the job site. Do not take for granted that the ladder, sawhorse, gantry, whatever that you've used for years, is in the same shape it was yesterday. Most especially in a shared workplace.
Years ago they'd have paper cups at construction sites with a picture of a man with a missing leg and a crutch, and the words, "A moment of carelessness, a lifetime of regret."
You're almost always one bad trip and fall away from a fatal head injury. Further elaboration and late edit on the many ways to die from it. There's a ton of ways to die from a head strike. It's one of the most vulnerable spots on the body. Any direct trauma to the head carries a concussion risk to the brain directly. Thankfully the skull itself is usually pretty thick and the brain is usually well cushioned, so unless it's an intentional injury you're usually safe. Far more worrying is the bleeding risk, epidural hemorrhage, because whatever intelligent designer up there designed humans decided to put a major artery right under the thinnest portion of the skull. This has the even worse phenomenon known as a lucid period, in which the bleed isn't bad enough to seriously compromise function, which can result in these cases presenting only after it's too late to ed. The entire neck has evolved to be highly flexible at the cost of not being very stable at all, which means that not only are you at risk of dying from your brain being hit on one horribly failed saving roll, your spinal cord can be injured if you're unlucky enough in a 1 in a million fall, with resulting neurological injury. Think Christopher Reeve. If you manage to dodge all those, you might be unlucky enough to fracture the base of your skull, usually seen in MVAs, but you never know, at which point you're now at risk for infection as well. Basically, there's a stupid number of ways to die from falling over, and it happens far more often than you think, especially in the elderly who are both more frail, at a higher risk of falling, and have slower reaction speeds leading to a much more poorly arrested fall. In a healthy person, most falls aren't a big thing unless they're of a particularly high energy, but you only have to be really unlucky once to finish you off. Sleep tight.
Happened to my best friend 6 years ago, completely unexpected, tripped over some wires and hit his head on his coffee table and bled out. He wasn't found until 3 days later. Still freaks me out.
Thousands die of drowning every year. Ocean currents nothing to F with.
Swim sideways parallel to shore, in a rip current it could save your life. My family, we are all competitive swimmers, swam or played water polo in Division 1 and 2 in college, and the amount of people that terrify us when we go swimming in the ocean is upsetting. Have had to save a few people too. Honestly, most people should not be swimming in the ocean without proper swim technique. We even know when to and when not to. My cousin got up in the night to use the toilet. Tripped in the dark, hit her head, went back to bed and never woke up.
This is exactly the reason why I bought these little motion sensor disc lights that attach to my baseboards. Humans don't see in the dark well enough to navigate without mistakes. I'm sorry for your loss, that's terrible.
Slipping in the shower.
Few weeks ago there was an earthquake in Southern California and I just happened to be stepping in the shower at that moment. I have never felt so helpless being naked and wet and surrounded by glass.
I guess any traffic versus pedestrian-related death.
Overcalculating my fast-acting insulin dose.
Word to this. Bounced myself into the once because I reversed my long-term and short-term dose at lunch.
I have a friend who ate some Chinese food one day, cashew chicken, to be exact, then went for a run about an hour later. He made the unfortunate discovery that there is an obscure allergy where exercising after eating something with celery in it can cause anaphylaxis. He was minutes away from dying. He survived because a few weeks before that, he discovered his next-door neighbors were paramedics who had saved him after crashing his bicycle in gravel at around 40 miles per hour. He ran to their house and they saved his life. Again.
I would buy my neighbors the biggest gift. Like, don't you ever move away.
Driving. Are you familiar with the micromort scale? It calculates death risk. 1 childbirth equals 80 molly pills and so on. Taking a cab to the airport is more dangerous than the actual flight. A lot more.
1 childbirth equals 80 hits of molly? Pooh. I know what I'd rather do.
A thin yellow line and your assumption that everyone else wants to live while driving.
I worked with a kid who was young but his body was a physical wreck. Always going to physical therapy. He walked like an old man basically. After we worked together a while I asked him what the deal was with his health. He told me a young girl got into a fight with her boyfriend and decided to commit suicide. She wrote a letter, put it on her passenger seat and gunned it, head on, into the first car she encountered on the road. Which unfortunately was him. She was successful, but left him in chronic pain for probably the rest of his life. Holy crap everyone. I don't post very much and I've never gotten more than a handful of upvotes or replies. This is very cool, thank you. I guess the fear of someone involving you in their suicide attempt is a pretty universal fear. Just wanted to tell you folks, the guy the first was talking about is just an amazing human being. He literally has zero hate or animosity towards this young person who drastically changed his life for the worse. Even though his body is held together with screws, plates and duct tape, his words, he absolutely said he would have forgiven her if she survived because young people often don't understand the massive repercussions of their actions. He actually felt sad for her and her family. I actually looked him up on Facebook this morning. He's now married to his high school sweetheart, has 2 beautiful young boys and actually coaches their youth soccer team. He uses a wheelchair pretty often now but it doesn't stop him from living his best life. Dude's a legend.
Falling off a small ladder just enough airtime to flip over and land on your head.
Adding to that fear, the worst thing you can do is fall on your back, hitting the back of your head. It's far more deadly and far more common than landing on your head when falling off a ladder. You can fall from the second step and it is enough to kill you.
Hitting the back of your head is surprisingly dangerous.
Knew someone who hopped out of a slow-moving car in a parking lot. Hit his head. Gone.
Driving. It's the most dangerous thing the average person might do in a day.
Exhaustion. It really makes us clumsy and jumpy, and especially with how easy it is to fall asleep at the wheel when you are tired, and how deadly car accidents can get, I would go with that.
I've read sleep-deprived drivers are just as dangerous as drunk drivers.
Electricity. We use a ton of it, and it's surprisingly easy to mess up.
Friend of a friend bought an old house to fix up, and unbeknownst to him a live wire was touching the plumbing. He was electrocuted in the shower.
I lived in a mobile home for a while. One day in the rain my front door zapped me. Invited the owner over to look at her issue. Didn't think to warn him. Zapped him too. Now for the messed up part. I lived there for about a year with this issue. He could never figure it out. So we'd just wear gloves when it rained. Being poor and unable to find a cheaper or equivalent place sucked. The owner got zapped by this about 10x as often as we did, because we were friends. And he still couldn't figure it out. Now with some experience with this, I could find it now.
Having your head crushed or broken in some way by farm animals.
My great-uncle was killed by getting trampled.
Back in 7th grade, one went to school with a kid. He got an ear infection at first, then in a series of quick unfortunate events, it went to his brain and killed him.
Ear or sinus infection to brain pipeline is not to be trifled with.
Picking up a live cone snail at the beach.
Could you elaborate please? I wish to know the danger of snails.
Cone snails, the ones with cone-shaped shells, have a poison barb that they can shoot out like a harpoon. The smaller ones don't do much more damage than a bee sting, but larger ones can kill a human with their toxin. They're aquatic snails, so you'd only find them at the beach, and the larger ones only exist in really tropical areas. Edit. Forgot to mention that there's no antivenom for the sting and it kills relatively quickly. So if you get hit, you've got about enough time to think about what it'll say on your headstone before you die.
Texting while driving.
Angering a random person. Next time you think about honking at someone who cuts you off in traffic, just assume that they're totally unhinged and will chase you down with a gun. And all it takes is one dirty look for someone to sucker punch you and have you fall backwards and hit your head on the ground. Instant lights out. Edit. People seem to keep getting hung up on the gun part, saying, this wouldn't happen outside the US. Having a gun pulled on you is just one example. My point is that pissing off the wrong person in a bar or just walking down the street can still be deadly. All they have to do is punch or shove you and you land wrong on your head. Or they pull a knife and stab you over some stupid poo.
When I was 18, my doctor gave me some sage advice. She said, *, the most common cause of death for someone your age is stupidity, *. If it looks too far to jump, it is, *. If you think you might need to call a cab, you definitely need to call a cab, *. If he says that he doesn't need to wear a condom, you need to leave immediately, *. You are an intelligent young woman. If something doesn't feel right, trust your instincts, *. Don't be stupid, and you'll be fine, *.
Shooting guns at an unsafe backstop. I've had bullets ricochet back at me once when I was shooting some old rusty metal.
Alcohol and Tylenol. Your liver will be gone. Edit. Paracetamol or acetaminophen to the rest of the world. Thanks you, Smegnos.
Playing with an unloaded gun.
A friend of mine's dad was cleaning his 9mm in his garage when we were in high school and didn't realize there was one in the chamber. We were 3 houses down the road at my GF's house, and we heard the report. Poor kid lost her dad at 15.
That's terrible.
Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.